But it was a lot more fun to think about it in September than it was this last week. The pressure's on. And so I'm going to just muse a little bit. I've no lecture. I know we've got, Stella did a little musing, and Wayne and Danny gave some more lecture sorts of things. I'm really not going to do that. I'm going to hopefully leave you with a garden gift of a visual little video, but this is not a lecture. And in fact, I couldn't even bring myself to use the word last lecture. So first of all, I want to thank you all for being here. I have family and friends. Some of the family you're going to see in the show in just a minute. Thank you for being here, taking care of all the way from Fayetteville. Friends who we've traveled with and love dearly, and my colleagues. Thank you, Dr. Sissinghurst and Marjorie, for being here. And a current student. And former students, it's great to see you. All right, just so that you'll wonder how long I'm going to take, into portions so you know that I'm moving through and how far we are in the presentation. Now, my lovely colleague, Jay McDaniel, always had parts of 3. And I tried to get this in parts of 3, but it didn't work. So I want to warn you that looking forward is very, very short. So I really have a part of 3 in terms of the longest parts of my talk. And Stella made the point this afternoon that it was important to kind of think about other things besides Hendrix life, and so that's where I wanted to start. We'll talk a little bit about Hendrix, of course, and then sharing my Hendrix gift that I've been so lucky and fortunate to get, and looking past this. I couldn't come up with a better word. I should have asked Marjorie to help me with some words. My non-Hendrix life. You know, I've worked here 30 years. Jake was just a baby when we came. It has been my life, and it does consume you in a way that maybe some other jobs don't, and other jobs consume probably more. But the rest of my life is really important to me. And Pam told me, because I was going last, that I could have as much time as I want. Okay? That's what she said. Yes. So I'm going to start very early. The other thing I want you to learn something about me or about Hendrix today. And so some of this is going to seem kind of strange, but it's things I'm pretty sure that a lot of you don't know about me or about my time at Hendrix. And so some of you know that I am an identical twin, and Jan is back in the back row back there, so be sure to look for the second me. We were very cute, and this is not day 1, I think this is day 2, so I didn't start at the very beginning. We were gorgeous little girls, as you can see, and we had a wonderful family. My sister Kay is here, Sister Yvonne, my brother, who was the favorite, of course. And then we were supposed to be playmates for my brother, and we did torture him some. And my wonderful mother and dad, who I owe a lot to, of course, besides just biological life. I wanted to include this picture because it represents so many different things. Our young life, with the fact that we were blonde to start with. And I have a good friend, David Matthews. We've known him for 35 years, and he always teases me about my hair. So if I'm not entertaining today at all, please watch my hair as we go through the time. You will be highly entertained. So this is my little sort of beetle look with blonde hair, and we're sitting on a watermelon. This sort of captures our childhood in a lot of ways. We were outdoors, lots of trips through the woods and in the fields and in the bayou, and we're sitting on a watermelon, which basically financed my college education. My dad raised watermelons. We had 5 children. He worked in the city and raised watermelons for college education. And so this meant a lot. My father would never let us sit on a watermelon. So that's another just sort of wonderful thing about this picture, is wondering what Dad was thinking when Mother took the picture. It's almost Easter time, and so I could not resist sticking this in our Easter bonnets. And my brother got a new pair of socks. You know, boys don't require a lot, right? But he's resented that ever since. But I'm going to speed up here in a minute.
Yeah.
High school. And then eventually I grew up, and here I am, the first female graduate from the Division of Agriculture at the University of Arkansas. First PhD. I want to make just a quick little side note here. And the way I got into my love of botany, of course, you saw what I was sitting on. I mean, my life was growing up outside. But I worked at the Medical University in South Carolina before I went back to graduate school, and I was convinced that I wanted to do anatomy and physiology, human sort of stuff. And then I worked in a research lab where we had human patients, and participated in our study, and they died, and I just couldn't take it. So my pathway was the other half of the biological world, at least the big half anyway, to plants. So that's how I ended up there. This is one of my favorite pictures of all times. My husband, Tom, of course. This was before even Matt was born, or just right out of graduate school. And later on. Italy. We have two boys, Matthew, and Matthew is married to Kelly. And they have two wonderful children. Paige and Austin, which that doesn't seem to work very well against the screen. And then Jake, our youngest, and his lovely wife, Kara, on their wedding day. And here is Paige, who's gone down the aisle, dropping all the rose petals, and now she's turning around and picking them up. One by one, and this is the beginning. Just a sweet picture. A sweet picture. Oh, I want to apologize that I didn't have some better pictures. You know, you think about this for so long and you think, well, I've got these. I know where they are. No, I don't. I don't know where they are. And so I was really scrounging this week to get the pictures that I thought would work. So that's my non-Hendrix family, my non-Hendrix life. So I want to talk just a few minutes about Hendrix, of course. When people ask what's special about Hendrix, and you've heard it before, it's the people. There's no doubt about that. This is a picture of some of our environmental studies seniors in 2010 or 2011. One of my favorite groups as a group, because they all had such outgoing personalities and were fun to work with. But our students are wonderful. And I couldn't have asked for a better set of students over the 30 years that I have been here. It's been wonderful to get to work with them. And my colleagues too, the faculty. You know, you go to meetings, you hear all the horror stories. You don't hear people tell us kind of stories about here. I don't like faculty meetings, I'll just admit that to you right now. They're important, I do understand, I do go. But the thing I love about faculty meetings is that we can argue, and we do, and then when the argument's gone, the decision is made, and people move on. It's not a place where people hold grudges, and people work cooperatively. And so that's made it just such a wonderful experience outside the classroom to have some wonderful people to work with. And the staff. Hearing about Shorty and her stock car racing, and Julia in our building right now, barrel races. So hearing those stories and getting to know a little bit about them, they care about Hendrix, they care about the students, and they care about us, and they take very good care of us. So it's the people make the place, no doubt about that. Now, my life here has been quite different from Stella's or James or Wayne's or Danny's, because I've spent quite a bit of my time in administration. And I've been thankful for that. It has made me grow in a way, and not just this way, that I would never have grown. To be able to get to know the college at a different level, be outside the department, appreciate what people are doing outside the department, appreciate what the Board of Trustees does, although those were quite stressful meetings also. Yeah, was just wonderful. My time as area chair, getting to know what my colleagues were up to and writing letters of recommendation for them, that was definitely the best part. Time in student affairs, in vice president for student affairs, was a growth experience for me, and just in terms of understanding a lot about leadership and a lot about working together and community building, which just, is not something you necessarily need in the classroom. So that time is very special to me. The academic life inside and outside the classroom, we're teachers. This is what we're for. We're here for the students and for what we do. And that has been wonderful. I particularly enjoyed my laboratory experiences and advising. Those are the two pieces that I like the best, and it's only because you get really to know people at a different level, and you get to know what they want to do with their lives, and sometimes you can help them just a little bit. Most of our students don't need any help. They don't really need us in lots of different ways. They can fly on their own, and I know that. But it's fun to watch them develop and grow from those first years when they're there. Some of them are pretty timid. Some of them maybe have a little bit too, or maybe too outgoing. And watching those come to the middle and grow as people and develop and be self-sustaining, there's nothing more fulfilling than watching that. It's like having, I probably have taught over 1,000, I'm sure I've taught over 1,000 students at Hendrix. And so it's like having 1,000 kids. If you're a parent, you have some idea of what that is like. And so you couldn't think of a better career, a nicer career, and Hendrix is certainly the place to be. Some of the things that have meant the most to me have been some of the trips I've been on. And so I've just got a few pictures from several of the trips, and I want to talk just a little bit about why those are special. And every one has been special. I've been on 12 orientation trips. The last one was really special. It was the org trip from hell. If you know more about that, I'll tell you about that later. And every one has been fun. But there are several that just kind of stand out for different reasons, and so I want to talk just a little bit about those. Shiprock in 2004. It's a Miller Center trip with Peg. Peg's here somewhere. She was. Okay, all right. Out to the Four Corners area, and we get there, and the first thing we do is attend a service, which is really a meeting, where the community that we are serving, supposedly, has just come back from a mission trip to Mexico. So they brought their slides and their stories, and if you think you're there to serve them, well, they also found a niche and a place to do this, and it was really rewarding hearing that and seeing that. My husband Tom and I and the boys spent lots of time in New Mexico, and so this is a place that we've always wanted to visit. We've driven by several times but never got to actually go. So I asked if we could go, and some of the Navajos actually took us to the base of Shiprock. It's a religious place for them, and a sacred site, and it felt like a sacred site to me. I have about 5 times in my life where I think that I have this sense that God is right there, and this was one of them. As you roll up to the base of this magnificent rock and in this desert, it's just, I'm speechless, of course. Okay. We're at the base. I didn't want to climb on it. I couldn't because it just looked like it meant too much. And and it was a sacred space. So kind of back up just a little bit. We did get to go to Bandelier National Monument on the way back to Santa Fe, where we worked in a food kitchen. So that was just a wonderful experience for us. Jay McDaniel, I went to China with Jay in 2008. And it's not just a trip with Hendrix students, but it was also with Heifer Project International. So to get to spend this much time with students, which is always fabulous, once again, to really get to know who they are and what they like and where they're from and what their dreams are and passions. But to see Heifer at work, Heifer Project, so inspiring for not only me, but also for the students, to see how just a little bit of help can motivate people way past what you would expect them to get out of the experience. And passing the gift, we were actually at a ceremony with the very first passing the gift in areas where people had never seen white people. So that was interesting. I also am grateful because I've never been in a place until this time where I was minority and I was the person everyone was staring at. And I'm so grateful for that. That experience really made an impact on me and convinced me that we needed to go back to China, and we eventually did. I love this picture because also the other thing about China is everyone was so hospitable, but this picture reminds me that the world, that picture, besides being bright and colorful, reminds me that that across the world we all have the same sorts of needs and desires, and everybody washes their clothes, some people hang them out or not, but there's a certain basic human level of activity that brings us all together in spite of feeling like you are different from others. And I am a tree hugger, and so that's this is China. It's a huge sycamore tree, and I just couldn't resist stepping over the line. I probably should have been arrested for that activity, but it's what I do. And this is the end of a horse race in Shangri-La, where they are racing way out in the countryside, and they finish in a big stadium. It's a big deal. It's their major festival for the year, and we got to be there when the horse races came in. Of course, we're paying no attention at all to the horse races. We're having a really good time. Alaska, another Miller trip in 2012. I've never been to Alaska, so this was a real big deal for me. It was right after graduation. The snow was still on the ground, and the beauty was unbelievable. So for a biologist, it was so fun. And to have almost completely, a long day, a very long day. We got in at like 12:30 at night, and the sun was still up. And so to be able to have some of those long nights with campfire and discussion of everything from Rwanda to hopes and dreams, it was a phenomenal experience. And once again, the people we worked with didn't have a lot of money, but they had fish. They brought us fish to feed us. They were so generous, and the activities were so fun. We did take one day out and went to Denali. It was on my bucket list, so here we are hiking in Denali, and James Dow was on that trip also. A bunch of college students. Of course, Hendrix in London is my premier moment, I think, I have to say, to spend 4 months or 3.5 months in London with 9 wonderful students, none of whom were biologists, didn't know any of them beforehand, but we had a wonderful time, and they were really good sports about studying the sociocultural history of English gardens. Here we are at Lytham Palace, outside of Oxford, and this experience is going to shape the rest of my life, actually. So to be able to study and to think about why people garden, the impacts of gardens, who did it, and then of course to enjoy gardens, has this liberal arts sort of approach, looking at gardens from different aspects. is something I know that would never have happened if I hadn't been right here and visiting with colleagues and being a part of it. I had so much fun when I applied that I don't remember who was making the decision, but I didn't care whether I got to go or not. But I had lived a dream just by dreaming the course. It was fantastic. And I made them hug some trees. This is also Blenheim, but it's a big tree. There are nine students, and you can see that they're not really stretched, but it took 6 to get all the way around that tree trunk. Phenomenal. And then, of course, they made me a birthday cake. So those sweet moments when they remember that you're a person too, is just so wonderful. And this is a landscape garden. Water, always water. This is the folly. It's the little pavilion that you have, and the lava peppers. I'll treasure that for the rest of my life. And in 2017, I taught a class in Italy for 1 month on Italian. It was Tuscan treasures from gardens to grapes. And so I did a little bit of Italian Renaissance gardening, and that connected with the English gardening because the English have long used Italian Renaissance gardens as their inspiration. So I needed to go back to the roots and discover that a little bit. But we also spent a lot of time talking about food and culture and wine and everything. We had just been to a farmer's market, spent the day shopping to live sort of the Italian version of shopping, and we bought stuff and it was a really hot day. We're having lunch. So we bought and then shopped and ate and just discussed the food. We did get to make pasta. That was part of my class. How much fun, more fun can you get with that? Everybody actually really enjoyed it. So the flour and putting the eggs in, and the cook for ABA helped us with it. So she was showing everyone how to knead. Well, she was running the show. I was just standing back taking pictures. But it was a lot of fun, rolling and then cutting. And then finally we are finished. And we did get to eat the pasta. It was wonderful. Yes. So I think several of them brought back pasta rollers as souvenirs from that experience. And the sunsets were gorgeous. It was so hot and dry. There was a lot of particles in the air. So we would go out to where the students were. We were living in the city. And then sit on a deck and watch the sunset. And so here I'm going to make you watch just a couple. It was really terrible, I have to tell you. Well, as I said, I feel like I got a great gift, not only from people, but also intellectual interest in terms of gardens that was shaped by my Hendrix experience. And in the spirit of Heifer Project, I'd like to share that gift with you. I only have a 40-minute presentation for this part of get out of your way. Okay, what's that going to do? Actually, this is a presentation that I give. One of the things I've been able to do since I got back was give a lot of presentations on gardens. Well, it's there. Okay. All right. Oh, okay. So, Sissinghurst. So I would like y'all just sit back and relax. Okay. This is not. Yeah, just relax. And before I go any further, I want to just make a disclaimer. All these pictures are mine. Okay. So think about that. Also think about they were taken at 2 times, been there twice. One was 2 days before they closed, in the middle of November. So you're seeing the garden at its very worst. And this was taken in September, which is still not the best time for the garden. Okay. And it is thought to be, well, people claim it, to be the most romantic garden in England. It's a stunning garden. It's outside of London, southeast, out in Kent, and it's got a strange history, a very strange history. When the Catholic Church gave up their hold on all the land in England, the land was acquired and someone built a hunting palace 38 fireplaces in the small hunting palace. And he built it to attract Elizabeth I to get a knighthood. He did get his knighthood. She did come visit with her entourage, and of course she had thousands of people. 1,000 people with her sometimes with her. Big entourage, she had to have a lot of room. So it's got a long history from the 1560s. The person who built it and who was knighted then had 4 daughters who did not agree as to what should happen with this property. Nobody wanted it, but they didn't want sister to get it. So it fell into disrepair, and the British government then took it over as a prison in the 1760s. This is the first real kind of drawing. This is a drawing that a French prisoner made of the complex. And so you can see it looks sort of like Cambridge or something like that. It's built on a quad with that old sort of style. And at some point after it was stopped using it as a prison, there was a big fire. And much of the complex was destroyed except for these 4 parts, which are going to make the part of the garden, the stable, something they call the priest's house, and a tower, which is the iconic feature in the garden, and then one other little house over here. So it's got a strange history to it. And then after it was abandoned in terms, and after it went through the fire, the next couple hundred years they worked with, it was a farm basically, and it passed through hands and hands. And you can see that they have some hops kilns here, so it gives you an idea of the kinds of things that they're growing in the area. Most of the property, the barns most of the buildings are at least 100 years old, and some of them are some of the original buildings. This garden was built by Vita Sackville West, and this is the reason why I had to talk about it, because she was one of the Bloomsbury group and was a friend, maybe even a special friend, of Virginia Woolf. So it gives you kind of an idea of who these people were, and her husband, Harold Nicholson. It took them about 10 years to fully develop the garden. They moved in after 2 years, and they had a family, 2 boys, 12, 14 age, somewhere in there. And you can imagine trying to make this into your family home. These people had unusual ideas about life, about the day, and of course we're very creative sorts of folks. Harold, who was originally an ambassador and then finally a writer, developed sort of the hardscape, so he plotted all of it out, and then Vita filled it with plants. And her one thing was pack it in, pack it in, and pack it in. So it is overabundant, and this was at a time when people were gardening with very short plants. They were doing carpet bedding, right? And so that was all the same color, very short, or you might have a pattern in there, but it was not this up, down, wild sorts of stuff that Vita and her husband end up doing. So her words about her gardening, she rarely wrote about her gardening, although she was a garden writer, was that it was profuse, even extravagance and exuberance within the confines of utmost linear severity. So that gives you a clue what this is going to be like. Once again, can you imagine putting your 12 and 14-year-old boys in a house by themselves? This is where the boys live. This is where this is where the boys live. This is where Vita and Harold lived. And this turned out to be her study where she wrote. So they took this abandoned property and then built this beautiful garden to link these buildings and call that their family home. That's a very unusual family home. Here's a drawing. I just want to show it to you so that you can see the really strong linear lines. Every English garden has great bones. This garden has bones. Lots of views so that you get to sort of be pulled in through an area, and your sight line is sort of somewhere off. So there's a lot of sort of mystical kind of movement through the garden. And then with these strong lines, just put lots and lots of plants that look like it's very profusely planted. She was known for, this garden is known for their white garden. Nobody was just planting all white flowers, so that was unique. A sunset garden, these are colors that they avoided, and some people still avoid them. Yellows, magenta, oranges, the sunset colors, and then for her profuse use of purple flowers. This is actually from the current visitation. So you can kind of see the strong lines through the drawing itself. An aerial view. So once again, to see the lines, but yet the foliage, you can kind of see the up, down, and that kind of thing. Okay, I'm going to quit here and show you a 4-minute video. 4 minutes, okay? You can stand it, I think. So literally do sit back and relax. everybody loves a moat and a tower that you can look out of. It really is a very special place. I'm almost finished. This is it. Looking forward, just a couple of minutes. Yeah, people keep asking me what I'm going to do, and I've got plenty to do, and lots of trees to hug, lots of gardening, lecturing hopefully, and doing some botany workshops and things. So I'm planning to keep myself really busy. About 4 years ago, we had one little magnet. Now we've got 2 little magnets who keep drawing us up toward Fayetteville, Paige and Austin. Paige the other day at the zoo said she didn't want to be a zookeeper, but she wanted to be a farmer. So, you know, I have some work to do here, and I plan to do it. And last, you know, one of the things that I really did most poorly while I was here was to be a driving instructor. And one of my students asked me if I would teach them to drive. They supposedly had a driver's license already, but had never driven very much. And I was a disaster. So I'm going to have to really work on this. And here is why. Silly 4-year-old. She's going to have to learn to keep her eye on the road.